Twilight Zone episode title, The Color That Shouldn't Be. Fade in. Dark alleyway, night. A narrow, dimly lit street corner devoid of light. The hum of streetlights flickers overhead. In every artist's life, there comes a time when they push the boundaries of their craft. A search for that elusive, perfect shade. A tone that transcends what's known and moves into the realm of the impossible. But in the case of Dr. Mara Silva, the search has taken on a far darker twist. A pursuit of a pigment that might not belong in the visible spectrum at all. But sometimes, when one delves too deep into the darkest recesses of color, they find something they may never be able to escape. Tonight's journey begins with a simple examination of light, of pigment, of life itself. An examination that will soon cross into the uncharted space of the human soul. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. Int, dimly lit lab. Night, a cold, clinical laboratory, humming with fluorescent lights. The space is immaculately organized, dominated by white countertops, glass vials, and papers scattered in neat piles. At the center, a microscope sits beneath a gleaming halogen lamp. There are a series of neatly arranged pigment swatches on a bench beside it. Close up, the swatches are various shades of grayish pink, some too brown, others too coral. Dr. Mara Silva, early 40s, thin, precise, hovers over the microscope, carefully placing one swatch under the lens. Her gloved hand adjusts the focus.
Too saturated. Needs less warmth around 620 nanometer. Let's reduce the red bias.
She shifts the slide, examining the hue more carefully under the microscope's high power. Insert microscope view. The swatch swirls under the lens, a muted rose gray, faintly glowing under the halogen light. Dr. Mara Silva isn't a painter, nor is she an artist in the traditional sense. She is a scientist, a chemist to be precise, driven by the goal of matching the perfect pigment. A pigment that will not only exist, but will transcend the standard color spectrum. But what drives Mara's search is not merely a curiosity for beauty. It is something far more insidious, a need, an obsession. An obsession to find the perfect color, a shade of flesh and bone that should not exist. Lab. Later, Mara walks to a counter, collecting a beaker filled with red powder and a vial of titanium oxide. She methodically measures the powder into a solution, mixing it with a stirrer. The solution swirls a delicate shade of grayish red, almost imperceptible under the fluorescent lights. She pours a drop onto a glass plate, then places the plate under the microscope once again. Her brow furrows in concentration. Insert swatch under lens. A faint, muted pink-gray begins to form, too cool at the edges, still lacking warmth at the center.
Not quite there. Maybe more of a titanium dioxide base. Something to keep it soft. Soft, but not too neutral. Quote, Rev 9.3, titanium dioxide mixed 40%. Still needs adjustment to reflect red without turning too warm.
Lab night. The camera lingers on a cryogenic freezer. Inside, like a stack of petri dishes, each one marked with a simple notation in red ink. Open quote, reference. DD 38 grams, close quote. She opens the freezer, pulling out a petri dish and placing it on the counter. Insert petri dish. Inside, a piece of tissue, pinkish gray, sits atop a bed of cotton. The edges glisten faintly under the light. Mara picks it up carefully, placing it under the microscope. She peers through the lens. Dr. Silva is no stranger to the anatomy of life and death. She knows tissue, she knows cells. But what she's truly after is not the tissue itself, it's the color that binds them. She has spent weeks, months, perfecting a way to isolate the exact moment where red meets gray, where blood blends with flesh to create that fleeting, elusive hue. But each reference sample is not a mere test. Each sample represents a missing piece of the puzzle. Insert microscope view. The tissue under high magnification, reveals a rich, fleshy gray with the faintest hints of red in the vascular detail. Mara's fingers tremble slightly as she compares the tissue to the pigment swatch.
That's it. Just a little more, a fraction more red, and it'll match perfectly.
She marks the petri dish. Open quote, reference LW, 39 gram 246 AM, close quote. Int apartment, night. Mara sits at a desk sketching notes into a logbook. Her apartment is sparse, clinical. She pauses for a moment, staring blankly at the wall, then looks down at the logbook entry. Reference, MB, 42 grams. She taps her pen against the paper. The silence feels heavy. Int parking lot, night. Mara parks her car in the shadows, waiting. A man approaches the curb, walking alone toward his vehicle. He's unaware of the figure in the shadows watching him. Mara slowly opens her trunk, revealing a cooler. Int lab, morning. Back in the lab, Mara places the new tissue sample under the microscope. A new label has been added to the stack. Reference, ER, 41 grams. Fia 1 grams. She examines the tissue carefully. She looks at it, comparing it to her previous swatches.
Mara, it's perfect. Perfectly neutral. The tone of decay, the color of thought. It's exactly as it should be. She takes a deep breath, marking the entry in her logbook. Open quote, Rev 10.2, perfect match. Stability confirmed. Needs no further refinement.
Close quote. In parking garage night, Mara watches from her car again. This time the shadows seem darker. The man is younger, quick steps, unaware. He gets closer. She steps out, a knife in hand. And later. Mara returns to the lab, a new sample under her arm. She walks to her counter, placing it next to her paint swatches. She stares at it briefly, then quickly begins mixing a batch of pigment. Insert. Mixing plate. A delicate mixture of phthalo pigments now adjusted to her specifications. It starts to match the color of her reference sample. She pauses, looking up at the small tube now filled with the pigment.
There. Just right.
She holds the tube up to the light, admiring the color. Dr. Silva thought she had found the answer. Thought she had captured the perfect color, a shade that existed only in the deepest recesses of the mind. But she hadn't accounted for what that color could cost. Because sometimes the pursuit of perfection demands a price that can never be paid in pigment alone. Fade to black. Dr. Silver's obsession with a shade of pink, a color that shouldn't exist, has led her into a place of no return. But in this particular twilight zone, some colors may never be replicated without leaving behind more than just a sample. Dr. Mara Silva is about to find out that not every masterpiece is worth painting.